What's up, guys? So this is another build video from the 3D printer. We have the Master Sword here, and I'll give a little close-up here to show the construction here. So each segment that you see that is yellow and green, that is one piece. I ran out of green halfway through the print. All these printed at the same time. So every piece is half yellow and half green, so I only had 7 glue spots total. This is a actual size sword. I lined up the seams really well. I was afraid that the machine would handle this slightly translucent filament. It was called like Gold Sparkle or something like that from Hatchbox. This is just regular Hatchbox green. It's showing up a little bit like aqua on camera for some reason, but it's just like a regular Kelly green. Surprisingly strong for just a flat fit glue job. I didn't use any kind of pegs. I just used clamps and just did it section at a time. Also, as you can see here, perfectly straight. It doesn't bend to one side. There's no bows in the sword or anything like that. So what I'm going to do with this build, instead of all the mess of the Famo wood epoxy that I used on the Hylian shield build, I'm just going to sand this and paint this one with the same silver paint I used for the shield, so they go well together, they'll match up. I've already fit it on the wall. This is going to go like diagonally behind the Hylian shield, so it should look like a pretty good little ensemble there. This big jacked up mess on the kitchen table here is the after effect of the shield project, which spanned over a week, and pretty huge project, pretty huge shield. If you haven't checked out that video, it was the last one I posted. A lot of Dremel work's going to be happening on this one in these little tiny areas where the glue kind of squirted out of the edges. But this is based on the sword from Twilight Princess, as well as the shield that is based from Twilight Princess. That's one of my favorite Zelda games, and I'm sure throughout the years and months that I own 3D printers, I'll be printing a lot more Zelda, video game based prints and models and projects. So if you guys are into that, hit subscribe, and you'll be notified when I come out with anything new. But so first step on this is to sand all these glue spats, and also sand the seams and make sure it's all nice and even. And just a tip, it's easy to tell when you feel it. You can feel a difference. So in a lot of these videos you're going to see me, whenever I sand or I'm using the Dremel, I'll kind of feel it. If you can feel it, you're going to see it when you paint it. But right now it looks like this weird like candy cane striped sword. But anyways, the reason why there's 2 sections of green here is this printed from the bottom up right here like that, and this printed from the bottom up that way. This was a several piece print. I'm printing my buddy Wes one right now. I'll try to get some footage of how it printed. So the colors we're dealing with on this build: silver, probably a darker silver, because this design you can't differentiate between this little outline zigzag thingy and the actual Triforce. So I'm going to try to put a line in there to separate those two little designs, because otherwise it looks like a large bottomed Triforce. The handle is like an purple-ish color, like a light purplish, and we have some gold details here and up on the sides of the sword itself right there. The handle is also purple, but this wrapping here that looks like some sort of leather wrapping on the handle, that is supposed to be green, and then purple for the hilt down here. So let's get to sanding. Alright guys, so you can kind of see how this prints the Master Sword. There's two halves of the guard and handle combo. This is the end of the handle and the hilt, and these are all these little shaped pieces here are blade pieces. That one right there is the tip of the blade, that's why it's not hollow. And this one is that weird part of the blade that doesn't have an edge before the edge starts, that has the Triforce on it. So believe it or not, this one print makes that entire sword, and I opted to do this just to make it easier to hit print and go. It's probably safer to do it one part at a time, because if it fails at any point during this print and it's not savable, meaning I can't resume the print or something goes fatally wrong, like a part pops off the bed, the whole print is over. So that's the risk you take when you do big prints like this, but I think it's worth it. This is, I'm using a wood PLA here by some off-brand Sunlu company. I had problems with this before clogging my nozzle, but I'm hoping that it'll be okay this time. But we're gonna just monitor the situation while this prints. But just to show you guys real quick of how that Master Sword printed. Alright guys, we've done a little sanding here just to see how it's gonna handle it. And so far I'm not feeling any bumps in the ridges. Just a few little areas that kind of has a little dip where they didn't line up exactly, that you're going to be able to see with the paint. I'm going to try to layer on the paint a little bit, maybe to hide some of that, but some of it may be a little visible by the finished product, because I'm really not looking to cover this entire thing in epoxy or do any kind of Bondo work or anything on this piece. But so I'm still gonna sand a little bit in some areas on this sword here. This right here, it shows up on camera like it's dense, but that's flat. That's where one of the clamps was on it, and it left markings in it, but there's no, I can't fill that myself. But, and then this, all these little detailed areas here are gonna have to be straightened up with the Dremel, where this seam right here was, or is, and then the handle here is not gonna be any problem hitting that with a Dremel. So just a little sanding on this, and then we're gonna Dremel a little bit, and then I'm going to coat it in silver paint all over, just to see where the flaws are, see where some work needs to be done. And once I get enough coats on it that's looking pretty good, we're going to do the detail painting on the handle and the hilt, the guard, and this area here that has some of the details on it. So on to some more sanding and dremeling. Alright guys, so I dremeled all the little bubbles of glue that were sticking out of the cracks here. And there's a few little areas that were way down in these crevices here that I couldn't get all of it. But it shouldn't be all that noticeable after that purple paint gets added. So I did all I could with what I had here. So we're going to get on with spraying it down with some silver and seeing how many layers we can get by with. Okay guys, this is the sword after it's been spray painted with silver. This is probably about 5 coats. I had some footage where I was spray painting it, but it's not very good. It's kind of dark, so I'm not going to include it in the video. But you can see there's some imperfections. Here especially is the worst one. You can kind of see, because of the shine of the paint, the joint areas, and but it's not bad, especially from like a distance. And on this side it's about the same way. You can't see it from a few feet away, but you can see it really up close. I'm gonna just do this one like new looking instead of like the Breath of the Wild version where it's like all rusted to pieces. We may do one of those in the future though. This is a project coming up. It's the eye switch from Ocarina of Time and several of the other games that you would hit with like arrows or slingshots. For those of you that are into the Zelda games, you know what it's all about. But still got these little inclusions in here where the glue couldn't get sanded out correctly. But I'm just going to call it good, and I'm going to paint the handle and the details and learn our lessons from a few of the flaws here, and we're going to keep getting better at this. But I should have coated this probably with some XTC 3D to hide some of the striation lines, some of the layer lines, but I think it looks pretty good considering. It catches the light really well. That metallic spray paint does a good job at making it look like a kind of like an oxidized aluminum brushed steel kind of look. But so we're gonna get to painting the handle here with some purple, green, gold, and see how that turns out. Alright guys, so the gold for this sword is not just your average gold color like that. It looks more yellowish gold, so what I'm going to try to do is put some yellow into this gold and see how it looks. And then we'll go from there. This is gold metallic enamel from Folk Art. I love these metallic paints. They got a really good effect that they give your projects. We'll add about that much yellow, and we'll see what this does to the mixture. Try to make it a more yellowish gold, and hopefully it doesn't turn it like brown colored. Alright, so it's going to look about like that when it's painted. I think that's pretty good. Possibly a little more yellow because it's looking a little bit like mustardy to me, but it definitely still held the metallic effect in the paint. Of course, the more normal paint you add to a paint with metallic in it, it's going to make the effect get lower and lower. Okay, I think that's a broader shade, so we'll go ahead and run with that, and if we need to adjust it, we can do that after. So we're painting some of the yellow gold on there now, and It's looking pretty yellow like it looks in the pictures. I think it's a pretty good match. So we're going to roll with it. We'll have to come back like we did on the shield and clean up some of the lines with some more silver after we're finished here, and it's going to take several coats to look right. But so we're going to do this side and flip it, do the other side, and put on multiple coats, and then we'll go on to probably the green down here on the handle for the threads, and then the purple. Alright guys, so the purple that we got was called Wild Iris, and it wasn't the correct purple. You can see it here. It didn't look like what was in the game, so what I did was I mixed some 2 blue and some of this sterling silver enamel with it to give it that shimmer look. And it's kind of hard to see on screen, but it has this metallic kind of essence to it there, and it kind of turned it to the blue side more or less. So here's the difference side by side. So it was way too reddish, kind of brownish purple on this side, so we brought it to the silverish blue side, and I think we've got our purple here. So this is the color we're using here in just a minute. We're putting on some coats here onto the gold details, and then we'll be painting from here back purple, and then we'll do the green threads last. Alright guys, so this is the purple here. You can see it's got like a silverish kind of shine to it. It's going to take multiple coats, finishing up some detail work there on the first coat. Right here on the Triforce you can see like a little indentation around the bottom pieces. I hit that with a Dremel to try to make a line for myself to follow with some shading to kind of make the bottom of the Triforce pop a little better, because this 3D model had it like blended in with the rest of that design and it didn't look that great. So I'm going to hit it with a little bit of gray to kind of highlight the bottom of that. Probably one of the last steps here. But it's coming along pretty nicely so far. And we got to flip it and do the other side this way, and then we're going to try to put the second coat on. Alright, so we're working on the second coat now of the purple. It's covering pretty good. It's hiding a lot of the imperfections and stuff as well, so that's good. There's still going to be some layer visibility there where the pieces were glued, but that's okay. Let's see. But you can't really notice that much of the glue spats that were visible down there. They're less visible now. So we're gonna do the second coat on both sides here, and then do the threads, and we'll get some close-ups of what it looks like, and then hit the whole thing with some clear coat. Do the little shadow, whoop, right there. Do the little shadow highlight of the Triforce, and that should be about it. Alright guys, we're getting the threading here. We had to mix some regular green with some black to get this dark shade to match the Twilight Princess sword. So I'm doing the same trick I did on the bird on the Hylian shield build. I'm just hitting the tops instead of going down and hitting the sides, because it's kind of shadowed and you can't see it on the sides anyway. So we're going to go through and get these. Alright, so here it is so far, and instead of the highlight around it with the shadow around the Triforce there, I looked closer at the picture from Twilight Princess, and it looks like that the Triforce is a slightly darker color, or that it was etched into the sword. So I just painted it a darker silver color. So we're just cleaning up some lines on the handle now, and then we're going to hit it with some clear coat and see how it all turns out. Alright guys, so this is it. After some clear coat, I decided not to clear coat the blade because this has a very unique metallic shine to it that it's pretty convincing that it's metal at a distance. But there's some imperfections here and there. There's some things that I could have done differently with this build, but we're learning as we go. But the handle here and the guard, the hilt, all of this looks really nice, clear coated. Made it shiny, made it pop a little. The gold ended up being pretty yellow, like a banana yellow, but it does have like a gold flake effect in person. That is the worst part of the blade right here, is that connection point. We have the Triforce there in the gray, the little etched in design, and then the blade. Not all that bad on the connection points, but there's some noticeable spots. But this is the project complete. 3D printed Master Sword. And I'll put a little clip on the end of the video here showing it mounted with the Hylian shield. Thank you guys for following along and watching to the end. If you like these kind of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps everybody out, and you'll be notified when I come out with a new video. Thank you guys for watching. Alright guys, here it is hung on the wall. I was going to drill into the back of the sword to mount it because it's only going to be a wall mount here. But it holds its own because of the weight of the shield. It just slides behind there and it doesn't go anywhere. It's pretty solid. So no drilling required. All I did for the shield was drill a hole right behind those corner rivets here on each side into the shell of the 3D printed plastic, and then hooked it into 2 screws on the wall. So there we have it, the Master Sword and the Hylian shield combo, completely 3D printed and painted. There we go. Thank you guys for watching.